all hell broke loose on the 5th of June this year when 3 ordinances related to farm reforms were promulgated. Promulgating an ordinance is an extraordinary step which is taken to meet exigencies. Was there an emergency, or did political expediency trump good governance to prompt the government to resort to this thoughtless step? Why I call this thoughtless is it was very hasty and not much mind was applied to it. When I say mind, application of mind, I mean the collective mind of the parliament. Today, farmers in Punjab and Haryana have taken to roads and streets to protest against these legislations. Politicians across ideological divides, including the BJP's ally Shiromani Akali Dal, have voiced their opposition to the ordinances. When the Modi government sought to replace the ordinances with bills in this monsoon session, there was hangama in the parliament, leading to expulsion of some Rajya Sabha MPs, Derek O'Brien being one of the more noticeable faces. The original 3 ordinances that created convulsions in Punjab and Haryana, but only minor ripples elsewhere in the country, barring perhaps Kerala. The first one is the Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Ordinance 2020, which seeks to loosen the stranglehold of the agriculture produce marketing committees on the farmers. These committees in short are also known as APMCs. Earlier, the farmers had no choice but to sell their produce only in one APMC controlled market. They did not have the choice to sell their produce in any other market, even if that was controlled by APMC. This exposed them to exploitation by Aadhatiyas, also known as commission agents. Often the produce had to be sold below the minimum support price because of the perishable nature of the agriculture produce, whichever it is, even the grains. If they are kept in the open, they are vulnerable to the elements. So whether it is rain or too much of sunshine or whatever, The nexus between FCI officials and Aadhatiyas, this is another factor. Not just elements, not just the perishable nature of this thing, but also the corrupt nature of the concerned officials. The government says the creation of an additional trade area outside of mandis, APMCs, will provide farmers the freedom of choice to conduct trade in their produce. This ordinance seeks to provide the farmer with more options for selling his stuff and thus strengthen his bargaining power, or so the government says. The government also says that he can sell the farm produce to anybody and anywhere in India to get maximum returns on his produce. The second ordinance which has been replaced by a bill is the Farmers Empowerment and Protection Agreement on Price Assurance and Farm Services Ordinance 2020. This enables stocking of agricultural produce regardless of limitation on quantity or time involved. Earlier, a farmer, nobody could do that, So, why now this has been done? To prevent glut in the market and enable a more even spread of the supply throughout the year. Now, we all know that the original role of the FCI was supposed to be this, not allow scarcity or glut in the market, and to regulate supply of the various grains, etc., farm produce in such a way that it was available to the consumers throughout the year. But then we all know what happened. tons and tons and tons of food used to go to waste, lying outside. And many other things happened. We all know. It was always there in the media about how the storage facilities were lent for some other purposes while the food stocks were rotting in the open. The Essential Commodities Amendment Ordinance, which was this thing, it is supposed to bring in a pro forma contract between the farmer and the buyer of his produce. This will put all the terms and conditions of the deal in black and white. So far, the farmer had to depend on the commission agent's word for getting his due, and of course he was often cheated. But this bill seeks to keep all transactions above board. This will provide the farmer with a legally enforceable contract. He will have the document as evidence in case any dispute arises. Well, at least he will have something in his hands. So when we look at the above ordinances, there does not appear to be any apparent reason for complaint. And yet there are vehement protests. Why? Why are farmers protesting so vociferously? The reasons are apparent. What is written in law books seldom translates into reality on the ground. Farmers fear that the government intends giving big corporate buyers a free hand while the APMCs will be gradually decimated. Presently in Haryana and Punjab, about 200 to 300 villages sell their produce to one APMC. So one APMC has, you can call it jurisdiction over 200 to 300 villages. Before these, even under the present APMC Act. Since the existing system is time tested, the APMC system or the RTA system, the farmers are comfortable with it and look suspiciously at the new legislation which seeks to remove the compulsion of selling their stuff in one marketplace only. They are not happy with it, or rather they are looking suspiciously at it as something else which they, it is something which is being projected as one thing and may turn out to be something dangerous later on to their interests. Now, why should farmers not rejoice at the wider choice provided to them? After all, now with this legislation, food processing companies or factories or industries, exporters, wholesalers, millers and retailers can directly purchase from the farmers. So why are farmers not comfortable with this aspect, or why are they not celebrating this aspect? Perhaps the answer lies in the trust factor. Although the government claims that the new legislation will benefit the farmers as there will be greater competition among buyers for their produce, there is a well-founded suspicion that only a couple of giant corporate houses will take over the market and dictate terms to farmers. They have seen what some of these companies have done in the urban areas, or they are aware of it. Thanks to the information technology, everybody can access these things. These corporate buyers are powerful enough to neutralize APMs. There is no doubt about it, and they can do that. Moreover, there is no guarantee that new legislation will not bring in a new breed of ruthlessly exploitative intermediaries. After all, there is no law against intermediaries, and that is a bit tragic. The bond between Adathiyas and farmers goes back to pre-independence days, long back. If you go to Khanna Mandi and all that, ask any old timer, they will. Now, of course, old timers also must have gone of that period, but still, it's a well-known fact. Adathiyas often lend money to enable the farmers to meet their domestic expenses in the hour of need. Something they cannot trust an outsider to do for them. The financial dependence is quite evident here. Even otherwise, for various social reasons also, they are dependent upon the Adathiyas, the farmers I am talking about. Since the Adithiya system is robust in Punjab and Haryana, the protests are more vociferous in these two states. Another factor can be that often big farmers and Adithiyas come from the same clan. This is a sort of well-known phenomenon in these two states. In this way, the system proves to be beneficial to them in more than one way. Since the legislation bars, this new legislation, since it bars fee, cess or levy on any farmer or trader, it has attracted opposition from the state governments. Now, state governments are also up in arms. It is not just the farmers who are angry, even Punjab and Haryana governments too are not very happy with what is happening. In Punjab, for example, such levies come around to 8.5%, which comprise 3% market fee, 3% rural development cess and 2.5% Adithiya's commission. So, while the states lose revenue, the big corporate buyers will be able to rake in huge profits with impunity. There will not be any check on what they do. Naturally, once they are simply too big nowadays to be regulated by any government. They are getting bigger and bigger, and you can say now they are the government, the way things are moving in our country. Moreover, the farmer feels that dispute resolution is simpler in the old system and does not require much expense. The panchayats are there, then they know each other and certain things can be sorted out by sitting together over a hookah or whatever it is. They can talk things out without getting into any court cases or such things. But in the new system, he will be up against the mighty corporate sector, which is impersonal. I mean, you just can't go and talk to them, how has this happened, let us sit down and sort these things out. A farmer cannot do with the big shots of the corporate sector. And this corporate sector is capable of swinging the system to its side with ease. The system will be heavily skewed against the farmer's interests, as the dispute resolution may become both expensive and intractable. If a farmer goes to the court or the magistrate as the legislation provides for, well, there is no guarantee that he will get a fair deal over there, because his resources compared to that of the corporate bosses will be almost nil. He just will not be able to stand up to them. They will have all sorts of professional vakils over there who will sort of... Anyway, given these misgivings, the government could have shown restraint in going ahead with the legislation, and it should also have facilitated parliamentary scrutiny after an informed debate. It is essential to reassure the farmers that, number one, or A, the new system will discourage formation of monopolies and cartels of buyers. For that, they will have to pass a law. And for this, anti-monopoly instruments and systems will have to be created to ensure a level playing field for all. But will the government do this? Is the government doing it? We are not aware. It's nowhere it has been revealed in any parliamentary debate. Second reassurance the government could have given was that there would be absolute transparency in all dealings and payments to farmers, and every payment will be prompt and in full. Some process was going on of digitizing the entire farm records, but that is neither complete nor adequate. It has to cater to the needs of the smallest and the most marginal of farmers. Third assurance which the government could have given was that it would set up a robust mechanism for dispute resolution, and the farmers will not be exploited. And finally, since the minimum support price has become a big issue, opposition is saying one thing and the central government is saying another thing, the government should reassure the farmers that it will set up a dynamic mechanism to ensure fair returns to farmers throughout the country. This mechanism should take into account the increasing costs of production as well as regional crop specialization. We all know that different states produce different crops according to the local soil, topographical and climatic conditions. We all know that. Like for example, saffron is produced in Kashmir, and spices, cardamom, etc., rubber is produced in Kerala and parts of Tamil Nadu. So you cannot have one size fit all sort of mechanism. It has to be very comprehensive, very detailed and very responsive to farmers in different parts of this huge and diverse country. But sadly, these concerns remain unaddressed so far. Would this lead to a situation where farmers will feel trapped between the devil and the deep sea? Or would it lead to the promised utopia of doubled farm incomes by 2022, which PM Narendra Modi had promised several times? Nowadays he is quiet about it, and we all know now that this seems to be improbable. Doubling up of incomes by 2022, it is improbable. But let us wait and watch how things develop, how the government responds. I do not consider this particular legislation as a finished process. It's a work in process. They will have to continue with the reforms in such a way that the farmer is genuinely helped. Thank you very much for watching this. I'll be coming up with another episode soon. Bye-bye.